Yes. So we'll continue now. Deemed income. Okay. So in that 40A2 and A3 alone, I have explained. Okay. 40A7 is provision for gratuity, not disallowed, will not be allowed as an expenditure. It will be added back if you have made any provisions for that matter. It will be added. Okay. 41 is remission deemed business income. Look at this. Remission or cessation of trading liability, balancing charge, which we have already seen earlier when we did power sector companies. 41.3, sale of assets used for scientific research. 41.4, recovery of bad debts written off, withdrawal from reserves created, and 41.5, profits from discontinued. See, these are all not exactly business income, but deemed to be business income because at an earlier point of time it was allowed as an expenditure. Okay, it was allowed as an expenditure, and subsequently, when it is being recovered, it is treated as income. Remission or cessation of trading liability, for example, you are purchasing goods on credit. Okay, debit purchases, credit supplier. And after some time, that supplier, there's some dispute, you are not going to pay that money to the supplier. At that time, the liability is going to be terminated. So at that point, it has to be treated as deemed business income. Balancing charge, I've already told earlier, we have seen that in case of depreciation, okay, has been charged on straight line method and subsequently you're going to sell the asset, you make a surplus. To the extent of depreciation charged earlier, it will be treated as a deemed business income, balancing charge. And then 41.3, sale of assets used for scientific research. Scientific research 35 would have seen that the entire capital expenditure will be allowed as a deduction in the year of purchase. Subsequently, if you sell that asset, you recover some money, it is to be treated as income. Similarly, bad debts written off under section 36, bad debts will be allowed as a deduction if certain conditions are fulfilled. It should be genuine, should be written off in the books of accounts. Okay. Then it will be allowed as a deduction. But after some years, if you're able to recover some portion of that, 10-20% of that you're able to recover, it will be allowed as a, it will be treated as an income, deemed business income. Okay. So that is what it talks about. And discontinued business. You have discontinued the business, but after some time you're able to recover something. Such cases also it will be treated as income. So 41.1. Look at this. You'll be able to understand. Examples have been given. So look at it. I have given the third example, credit for purchase of raw material I've given. Now look at it. Read this 41.1. If you have any doubt, you can ask. Arunachal has asked a question, deduction for discount, how to calculate. We'll get back to it later, not now. Okay. Any doubt in this 41.1? If you have any doubt, say yes. Ask. Otherwise, we move on. Any doubt, please? Our participation strength is now around 80. It is exactly half of when we started. When we started, it was 160. People have become very much conversant with income tax, so half the people are again, or the interest has been down. Anything, anyway. Any doubt in this? Anybody who's got anything to ask? In 41.1, no. 41.2, 41.3, 41.4 is given here. Hope all of you all are understanding what is being said here. If you don't understand, please ask. Can we move on to the next slide, please? Yes, can we? One. Yes, no response at all. Can we go on? Respond, please. Hemant, yes, sir. Haripriya, Ashwin. Okay. Karan. Yeah, already it is difficult, okay, to for online classes without any interaction. Difficult. Okay, to look at the screen and then keep talking. So we have some interaction or the other, at least in the chat box. It will be nice. Okay. 43A, exchange rate fluctuation. This is when you're buying an asset from abroad. Okay, there is likely to be a variation in foreign exchange. You're agreed to buy for say $10,000 and you're going to make part payment. Okay. First you would have you're supposed to make a payment after 90 days. Today date based on the invoice you'll account it. Later on there is a variation, the exchange rate when you're going to pay the second installment. Okay. Then the actual cost of that asset should also be increased or decreased accordingly, depending on the payment. Today I've accounted at say 75 rupees, the entire amount, $10,000. But the 50% of that I'm going to pay after 6 months. After 6 months, when I pay, the rate per dollar is say 78 or 90 or 80. Then accordingly, the cost of the asset has to be increased. Okay, the depreciation also will change. Agreed. 43B. This is the one which we have been seeing earlier also. That is based on actual payment. We're using the word payment. Unless the payment is made, the expenditure will not be allowed. Is what it says. Read through this. If paid after the due date for filing return, amount paid can be claimed as deduction only in the year of actual payment. Okay. One example which we have not seen earlier is bonus commission to employees. I don't know whether I told earlier when we did section 36. did I say about bonus? In 36, we said bonus commission to employees is allowed as a deduction subject to section 43B. So I might have explained at that point of time. I have debited P&L account on 31st of March. Debit bonus, credit payable, bonus payable or credit outstanding liabilities are passed an entry on 31st of March. Now, if it is paid before the due date for filing return, it will be allowed to the relevant previous year. That is for 2019-20, I have passed an entry on 31/3/2020. If I am distributing the bonus to the employees before filing the return 30th September 2020, then it is allowed as a deduction for the previous year 1920. If I don't pay, if I'm going to pay it in January, then it will be allowed in the year 2021. Correct. Sharon says if it is paid on 1st of October, deduction is allowed in 2021. Yes. And for 1920, it is disallowed. It will be added back to the net profit. Agreed. Similarly, payment towards interest on loans from any bank, etc., state industrial investment corporation, etc. If it is paid before the due date for filing return, it will be allowed. Otherwise, it will be disallowed for that year. In whichever year you pay the interest on loan, only in that year it will be allowed. Okay. So very often, most of the cases you would have seen subject to 43B, subject to 43B. This is what is 43B all about. Right. Sixth point, sir. Payment towards any amount in lieu of any leave to the credit of his employee. Leave encashment. Leave encashment would have come across earned leave. Okay. Now, when he surrenders the leave, okay, the employer will reimburse leave encashment, it is called. If the leave is encash, payment is made before the due date for filing return, it will be allowed in the relevant previous year to which it applies, or subsequent in whichever year is going to make payment, it will be allowed as an expenditure in the hands of the employer in that year. Sixth point is leave encashment, when the employee surrenders the leave and he receives money. So what is the date he receives money? Is it before the due date for filing return or after? That's the question. Agreed? Right. 43 CA. This is similar to what we have seen in capital gains 50C, sale of immovable property. There, immovable property was held as a capital asset. Here, immovable property is held as stock in trade. What is the treatment where immovable, this is in the case of real estate promoter. Real estate promoters, if they are holding land, building as stock in trade, and if they sell it, it gives rise to business income. Now, in such cases, what is the consideration for transfer? What is the stamp duty, value, etc.? Whatever we have read in 50C, same thing will be replicated in 43CA also. You should try to recollect in capital gains, 50C sale consideration, what is there on the sale deed, what is the guideline value on the date, whichever is higher, that will be deemed to be the sale consideration. Okay, deemed sale consideration, whichever is higher. We say stamp duty value, we say guideline value. Okay. Whatever we have seen in 50C, 50C was in capital gains, where immovable property is held as a capital asset. Here, immovable property is held as stock in trade, then PGBP applies. Okay, read through this. Any doubt anywhere, please ask. Any doubt, please? 43 CA, you want any explanation of 43 CA, you can ask. Nothing? No issues? Any doubt in this? Okay. Sharon, valuation officer value is higher than guideline value. Then guideline value will be considered. Yes, you are correct, Sharon. Correct. Haripriya. Sir, it applies for both CG and PGBP. Yes. As I told you earlier, Haripriya, if you are holding it as a capital asset, then capital gains will apply. If immovable property is held as stock in trade, the balance sheet it is shown as stock in trade, then PGBP will apply. The provisions are similar in both the cases, 50C and PGBP, it is similar. There are so many things which are similar. I'll give you another example also. You would have seen interest on loan paid to non-residents. In case of house property, there was a section 25. If TDS is not deducted and not paid within the due date, 7th of the succeeding month, the entire amount is disallowed. Section 25 in house property. In business income, you had section 40, clause A, subclause 1. Payment made to non-resident. If TDS is not deducted or after deduction it is not paid, it is disallowed. But only thing is here, in 40A, they said that they're very lenient. They're telling if you pay before the due date, it will be allowed in this year. Otherwise, in whichever year you pay, it will be allowed. That is what they say in 40A, clause A, subclause 1. In income from other sources, there is one section 58 disallowances, which says that if you're borrowing loan and investing it in assets in India, and if you're going to pay interest on that loan, then that interest will be disallowed if TDS is not deducted or after deduction is not paid within the 7th of the succeeding month. So, as far as interest on loan paid to non-residents is concerned, in house property, you have got section 25. In business income, you have got section 40, clause A, subclause 1. In income from other sources, you've got section 58. Similar. The concept is similar with a slight variation. Here we are talking about 43 CA is similar to section 50C. Okay, another similarity. And then you would have seen as far as amount received from Keyman insurance policy is concerned, the treatment under section 17. Okay, it is treated as profits in lieu of salary. Then you will read about Keyman insurance policy in section 28, chargeable in the hands of the employer. Then you will read about Keyman insurance policy in section 56, chargeable under the head other sources. Okay. So the concept of Keyman insurance policy you're going to read in 3 places. The concept of sale of immovable property you're going to read in 2 places, capital gains and PGBP. And interest on loan you're going to read in 3 places. One in house property, one in business income and interest on loan paid to non-residents, and another one, section 58, income from other sources. Okay. So like this, if you're able to understand, okay, this is possible only if you have completed all the 5 heads of income and if you are thorough with it, then you will find similarities in different places. references. Like, for example, you had tax paid on perquisites. Tax paid on perquisites is exempted in the hands of the employee under Section 1010CC. At the same time, under Section 40A, Clause 5, it says 40 Clause A, Subclause 5, it says that tax paid by the employer on perquisites is not allowed as deduction in the hands of the employer. You understand? So, like this, you'll find a lot of sections. The concept is similar. The treatment may differ depending on the heads of income. Understood. Sharon, if an assessee pays under section 195 and not deducted TDS, means will be disallowed in most of the sections, sir. See, he is talking about TDS. Section 195 deals with TDS on payments made to persons outside India. If TDS is not deducted or not remitted, okay, it will be disallowed as per section 40 clause A, clause 1. Similarly, as we said, section 58 also. Similarly, in income from house property also, you're correct. Sure. Okay, so what you have to do is, after you have read everything, then think payments made to persons outside India, which are the sections applicable. Payments made to residents in India, which are the sections applicable. Like that, if you are trying to assimilate, then your confidence level will improve. Okay. Your grasp of the subject will improve. All this will be possible if you are able to read, understand, and read. Without understanding, you read absolutely no use at all. So try to understand, try to remember, try to recollect, and then try to reproduce. So it is a continuous affair. We cannot claim that anybody is perfect, anybody is an expert. Okay. Every expert, if he stops learning, if he stops reading, Sharon, you're correct, because the logic behind section 195 is income tax department cannot go behind the non-resident to collect the tax. Therefore, pressure is applied on the person who's making the payment. The person who's making the payment is the resident. So you pressurize the resident to deduct tax at source and then blackmail him. If you don't deduct, or after deducting, if you don't remit, we will disallow it in your hands. It's a blackmail. Okay. Rudely speaking or colloquially speaking, it's a blackmail. You're blackmailing the person making the payment. You're telling if you don't deduct, because the department cannot go behind the non-resident to collect tax. They cannot ask him or force him to file the return of income. Okay. So the primary aim of the department is to collect tax. That is, I want money. That's all. Simple. For wanting money, what will I do? If you don't remit, I'll penalize you. How do I penalize? I say disallowance. If disallowance means add back to net profit, add back to net profit means you're going to pay extra tax of 30%. Understood? That's how. It's basically common sense. Okay. Right, sure. Only then you understand, you are able to appreciate. Okay. So the whole point is trying to get involved. Why have they introduced this section? Try to get involved, then you'll understand. 44AA. Compulsory maintenance of books of accounts. Okay. Suppose there is a small tea shop owner. Okay. Opposite or in front of the CA Institute, there will be a SIRC, there will be a small tea shop will be there. You go and tell him, are you maintaining books of accounts? Do you have a purchase register? Do you have a sales register? Do you have ledger? Do you have tally? Do you have accounting software? Do you have a general ledger? Do you have a debtors ledger, creditors ledger? That fellow will start shivering. Okay. He's a small time businessman. He does not even have bills for the milk he purchases, for the tea powder, for the biscuits that he's selling. He does not even have a purchase bill. And whenever he's selling a cup of tea, he does not have an invoice. He doesn't raise an invoice. For 10 rupees cup of tea, he doesn't raise an invoice. Correct? For a biscuit of 1 rupee or 2 rupees or chocolates, he doesn't. Or for cigarettes that he sells, he doesn't raise a bill. You understand? So he will not have books of accounts. But he has got business income. He has got business income, but he does not have books of accounts. Now, should he maintain or who should maintain books of accounts is the question. Now look at it. Notified professions. Notified professions means 44A says, I think I've given in the next slide what are all notified professions: chartered accountant, doctor, lawyer, advocate, etc. These people are all notified professions. At the same time, I've also told you the fellow who's looking at having a parrot and giving predictions, astrology, etc. He's also a professional, but he is not a notified professional. Okay. So as far as notified professions are concerned, gross receipts exceeds rupees 1.5 lakhs in a year in all the three preceding previous years. It is not in any one of the 3 years, it is in all the 3 years. I've underlined that. So look at it. Other business or professions. Income exceeds 1.2 lakhs, other professions, other than notified professions. If the income exceeds 1.2 lakhs, or turnover exceeds 10 lakhs in any of the three preceding previous years. Here it is any of the three preceding previous years. Then you have to maintain books of accounts. Presumptive cases under section 44 AE, ABB, triple B, where the income is less than the prescribed limit. We look at AE, probably BB and triple B, we may not look at it. That's different. They have, this is called as presumptive income. Okay. Books of accounts need not be maintained if you are showing minimum amount of income. 44 AD, where the income is less than the prescribed limit and where income exceeds basic exemption. We look into 44 AD and AE in detail after this is over. Yeah, after the slide is over. Anything you want to note in this? Anything you want to say in this? Yes, please. Do you want to add anything? Want to ask anything? No. 44 AD tax audit. Read this. Suppose there is a businessman. Generally, a businessman does not have to get his accounts audited. He does not have to go to a chartered accountant at all. He does not have to. If he knows how to compute and file the return, he can file it by himself. However, income tax department stipulates that certain business professionals, business people, professionals have to get their accounts audited and submit an audit report. Okay, specified. It's a specific audit report. They give questions and answers. Okay, there's a form 3CD which you have to fill up. Okay, for specific questions. So look at this. Filing of audit report under section 44 AB on or before the date of filing or filing return of income is mandatory in the case of the following persons if in the previous year for a person carrying on business the total sales turnover or gross receipts exceeds rupees 1 crore. Okay. It exceeds 1 crore, then you have to do a tax audit. Persons carrying on profession gross receipt exceeds 50 lakhs. Person carrying on business referred to in section 44 AE or BB or BB and claiming income is less than the prescribed limit. Persons carrying on specified profession referred to in section 44 ADA claiming income less than the prescribed limit. And income exceeds the basic exemption. And similarly for 44 AD also. Just read through this. You want anything on this, you ask. As far as 44 AD, ADA, and AE is concerned, we'll have subsequent slides. We'll be looking into it. We are talking about Sharan for assessment year 2020-21. Okay, have you gone through this? Saravana Kumar. Yes, sir, we can move on. 44 AB tax audit. Again, continuation. If you have a company, a corporate SSE, then you don't have to do a tax and audit again. It is sufficient if the person gets his accounts audited under such other law, Companies Act, and furnishes the report in the form PCD prescribed under this section. In the case of an SSE carrying on more than one business activity, the aggregate sales turnover and or gross receipts of all business carried on would be taken into consideration of the limit of 1 crore. We're talking about a proprietorship, okay, in case of a proprietor. In computing the monetary limit for prescribed 44 AA, AB, and the gross receipts or income, I'll be excluded. As far as 44 AD is concerned, the turnover limit is 2 crores, but for 44 AB, the limit is 1 crore. Okay. Anything, anybody who wants to add something or you want to ask something? Fourth point. Murli Krishna. 44 AB shall be applicable if the gross receipt exceeds 1 crore. That's what we have seen, okay, in the previous year. But in a case where the SSE opts for presumptive taxation under 44 AD, 44 AD we're going to see later. 44 AD is for small retail businesses. For retail businesses, they say up to 2 crores. If they show 8% or 6% as their income, it is okay. Therefore, for such people, okay, only the gross receipt exceeds 2 crores, 44 AB tax audit will become applicable. Presumptive income, Sharan. We are going to look into that in the next slide, but still I'll explain now. Presumptive income is the small businessman, I told tea shop, okay, or a vegetable vendor. He cannot maintain books of accounts. He cannot have an accountant separately for this. Therefore, what they say is, if your turnover does not exceed 2 crores, okay, if you are ready to show 8% of your turnover as income, my turnover is say 50 lakhs. Okay, for 50 lakhs, 8%, 4 lakhs. If I show in one line, my turnover is 40 lakhs, my business income is 8% of 40 lakhs. So 8% of 50 lakhs, which is 4 lakhs. If I show that and file the return, accept it. This is 8% is where, but in case you're getting all your income by way of check or electronic mode, your sale receipts is received by way of electronic mode, then they say 6%. If you show as income sufficient, we will not ask you questions. We will not ask you for bills, records, proof, etc., accounts, etc. That's what is 44 AD about. As far as 44 AE is concerned, it talks about a transport business. It talks about per ton, okay, of the weight that they carry. This is the rate. We'll come to that 44 AE. So this is to help small businessmen. They cannot have tally, they cannot have a computer, they cannot have an accountant, they cannot have books, records. Like I said, a small tea shop. That fellow will not have any purchase bill at all for biscuits, for tea powder, for milk, sugar. He does not maintain any bills at all. Neither does he raise an invoice. For all such people, if their turnover does not exceed 2 crores per year, they need not maintain books of accounts. They can show presumptive income of 8% or 6% as the case. Okay, so we'll now go on to the next one slide. 44 AD. Take 2 minutes, read through this, then I'll explain. Eligible SSE. Look at it. Resident individuals, HUF, firm. Other than these three types of people, nobody else is eligible. A company cannot come under 44 AD. Okay. An LLP cannot come under 44 AD. Only a partnership firm can come under it. Resident individuals, HUF. Okay. If their turnover does not exceed 2 crores, less than equal to 2. So the percentage is 6%. If your gross assets is by way of account pay check or account pay draft, then it will be 6%. Okay. And in other cases, it will be 8%. Okay. In 44 AD, all deductions under section 30 to 36 shall be deemed to be allowed. WDV of assets used for the purpose of business shall be calculated as if the depreciation has been actually allowed. Which means current year I'm going under 44 AD, then I will notionally calculate depreciation, arrive at the WDV for the next year. Do you understand? So it's deemed to have been allowed. An SSE who is covered under 44 AD is required to pay the entire amount of tax on or before 15th of March. That is, normally we pay installments, 4 installments we pay, 15th June, 15th September, 15th December and 15th March. But for a person who is covered under 44 AD, if he makes a one-time payment, he does not have to make 4 payments. If he makes one payment on 15th March, it's okay, accepted, allowed. Okay. This 44 AD4 is slightly, take your time, please read through this. Charan is asking for the previous slide. You read through this slide, I'll take time. Then I'll give you the previous slide. Read through point number 6. Read it slowly, carefully, try to understand. I'll explain the next slide with an example. Point number 6 is slightly requires your attention. Read it carefully. I'll explain it with a numerical example in the next slide. Have you read point number 6 carefully? Where in respect of any previous year, income has been declared by the eligible SSC under section 44 AD and if the SSC has not declared the income in accordance with this section for any of the 5 consecutive assessment years, then the SSC shall not be eligible to claim the benefit of this section for 5 assessment years subsequent to the assessment year relevant to the previous year of such violation. Read it twice or thrice. Only then at least 10-20% you will understand. Then I'll give you the example, then you can see the numerical example, you may understand it better. Have you read through point number 6 and then point number 7? Okay. Okay. This presumption is like forecasting of income. It's not forecasting. You are only taking what you can say a predetermined rate. It's predetermined rate applicable on the turnover. We are not asking for your actual expenditure based on your actual sales turnover. Based on the actual sales turnover, a predetermined rate is applied to arrive at the taxable income. That's all. And the income tax department promises they won't ask any questions. Okay. All right. Look at this example. Take 7th point explain. I'll explain the 7th point. That is need to maintain books of accounts. Now look at the example for the 6th point. Please look at this example. See, once he has started offering for 2016-17, he has offered income under section 44 AD. Normal provisions, you know, what are all allowances, disallowances, depreciation, etc. 1 crore is the turnover for which 8%, 8 lakhs he has shown as income. He is not going to maintain books of accounts. Up to 2 crores turnover, you can go. So, second year, see, once you have shown 8% in 2016-17, then for the next 5 years, also you are compelled to go under 44 AD. If in the third point, you would have seen for 2019-20, I am not following 44 AD, I am following normal provisions of income tax. Section 30 to 37 expenditure, etc., all that I'm going to claim, and I'm going to show only 4 lakhs. Okay, when I'm showing 4 lakhs, I'm not showing 8%. Okay, I'm telling, okay, I have books of accounts, the only so much is a profit, I'll show only so much. You are allowed to, you are permitted. However, what they say is since the SSC has not offered income in accordance with provisions of 44 AD for 5 consecutive assessment years after after assessment year 17-18, which means your previous year 16-17, he will not be eligible to claim the benefit of section 44 AD for the next 5 assessment years from 2021 onwards. Okay, for the next 5 years, he is not eligible to claim the benefit of, probably it should be for the next 5 years, should be from 21, 22. Since he has violated in the year, previous year 2019-20, he has violated. He is not following 8%. Therefore, for the next 5 years, he is not eligible for. Since the provisions of 44 AD are applicable to the above mentioned eligible SSC and whose total income of 4 lakhs for assessment year 2021 exceeds the maximum amount not chargeable to tax, that is a basic exemption limit, he shall be required to maintain books of accounts as per section 44 AA and get them audited under 44 AB. This was the 7th point which you are talking about, Sharan. Section 44 AD, subsection 5. Okay, please look at it. After you read this, I can go back to the previous slides. Look at this example. Then I'll go back to the previous slides. Have you understood this numerical example? I find no response at all. Sharon says here. Hartika, Heman. Okay. For the benefit of others, what I'll do is I'll go back to the previous slide. We'll go through it again, try to clearly understand. Arunachalum. If turnover has crossed 2 crores, then also subsequent 5 years he can't pay under 44 AD. Yes. If your turnover has crossed 2 crores, you cannot come under 44 AD at all. Not possible. Saravana Kumar, 7 point. An eligible SSE to whom provisions of 44 AD4 are applicable. 44 AD4 is applicable to whom? 44 AD4 is applicable to whom? For a person who has violated, who is not showing 8% for the subsequent 4 years. Okay. For a person to whom 44 AD is applicable and whose total income is more than 2.5 lakhs, basic exemption limit is 2.5 lakhs, shall be required to maintain books of accounts and get them audited under section 44AB. Compulsory tax audit is required. Example is, I think I have given it in the next one for the 7th point, Saravana Kumar. Please look at this second note which I have given here for 4485. Okay, understood, right? Forty-four ADA. This is for specified professions. I told you earlier, specified professions I have said elsewhere. So here specified professions given under Rule 6F. This is income tax rules. Law, medicine, accountancy, architecture, interior decoration, authorized representative, film artist, engineering, technical consultancy, information technology, company secretary. These are all specified professions. Okay. Now, a resident individual or HUF or firm, but not LLP. Okay. Carrying on specified profession whose gross receipts from such business does not exceed 50 lakhs in a previous year. Presumptive income. A sum equal to 50% of the gross receipts of the SSC or such higher sum as declared by the SSC in the return of income shall be deemed to be the income of profession. For example, if you are going to show 25 lakhs as your gross receipt, if you show 50% of 25 lakhs, 12.5 lakhs as your income, no questions will be asked. That is what it says. No question. Tax audit, where the profits and gains from the business, from the profession are deemed to be the profits and gains of the SSC under 44 ADA, and the SSC has claimed income lower than the income prescribed under 44 ADA during such previous year, income exceeds the basic exemption limit. The SSC shall maintain books of accounts under as per section 44 AA and get them out. Where the profits and gains from the profession are deemed to be profits and gains of the SSC under 44 ADA. Looking at an example where 25 lakhs is the gross receipt, 12.5 lakhs is going to show. And the SSC has claimed, whereas 12 and a half is without showing 12 and a half lakhs, if he is going to show 5 lakhs as income, and the SSC has claimed income lower than the income prescribed under 44 ADA during such previous year, income exceeds the base, that is basically 2.5 lakhs, whereas this fellow is showing an income of 5 lakhs, then he should maintain books of account and get it tax audited. I hope you have understood this fourth point. Yes. Any doubt in the fourth point? Have you understood 44 ADA? Come on here, some response here. Understood. I'll move on to 44 AE. Sharan space clear. Hemant, yes. Kartika, yes. Shravan Srinivas, is it same as 44 AD? 44 AD is for business people. 44 ADA is for professionals, specified professionals. Haripriya, yes, sir. And here they are saying if your gross receipt does not exceed 50 lakhs, okay, then you are eligible to show 50%. No questions will be asked. Saravana Kumar, in presumptive income, whatever income we are showing, that income is considered as total amount of PGBP. Correct, you're right. Absolutely right. Right. Okay, this is 4488. More points in 4488. Sharan, if gross receipt exceeds 2 crores, 4484 does not apply, sir. Correct, Sharan, you're right. Absolutely right. 4480 will not apply. Forty-four A. Those owning not more than 10 goods carriages, within bracket I given less than equal to 10 at any time during the year. Once again, small time transport operators who do not own more than 10 goods carriages. The income shall be deemed to be ₹1,000 per ton of gross vehicle weight or unladen weight for heavy goods vehicles, ₹7,500 for other than heavy goods vehicles. For heavy goods vehicles, they are telling whatever be the unladen weight, okay, it is ₹1,000 per ton. Okay, this is for every month. If you see below that, it is mentioned underlined for every month or part of the month during which the goods vehicle is owned by the SSC in the previous year, or such higher sum as declared in the return of income by the SSC shall be the taxable income. Heavy goods vehicle means the gross vehicle weight exceeds 12,000 kg. See, there is no compulsion that you have to show under 44 AE. You can show under regular provisions also, but you have to maintain books of accounts, documents, records, proofs, etc. If you are going to adopt 44 AE, you don't have to maintain any accounts at all. That is the advantage. Flying goods means, Sharan, flying goods means transporting goods. This is not applicable for passenger vehicles. This is applicable only for goods vehicle, lorry, truck, trailer. Okay, these are all flying goods or even tempos. Tempos which are there. Okay, Tata Ace and all that small tempos and all are there, which are used for transporting goods from one place to another. Could be vegetables, could be industrial engineering products, could be agricultural products, anything, manufactured products from one place to another. That is for transport operators. We are not talking about passenger vehicles. We are not talking about buses. We are not talking about cars, taxis. Okay, tempo traveler. You have SUVs, then anything like that. Agreed. Anything else you want? Any explanation? Otherwise, we'll go on to a numerical example for this. I think it should be the next slide. Numerical example. You want anything here? You can ask for it. Okay. No doubt. Look at this numerical example. Here, as per the normal provisions, he is showing from this business 45,000. Other business income is 70,000, but from this business income is 45,000 if he is following the normal income tax provision. Please go through this example, numerical example, try to understand this. We'll go to the solution next page. Okay, I hope you would have read through the question. Look at the solution. Have you understood this? Once again, show the question slide, Shravan Srinivas, and go back. Look at the question. Okay. Meenakshi solutions like so. Shravan Srinivas. For other than heavy goods vehicles, 7,500. There are four vehicles from April to March. What is the problem? We have already said for heavy goods vehicles, it is the question where is 7,500 mentioned? Where is 1,000 rupees mentioned? That can you tell? For heavy goods vehicle, okay, 1,000 rupees, where is it mentioned? That is applying Sukhvinder engaged in the business of flying goods carriages. On 1st April, he owns 10 trucks, out of which say 6 are heavy goods vehicles, means 4 are other than heavy goods vehicle. That is the meaning. Okay. On 2nd May 2019, he sold one of the heavy goods vehicle and purchased a light goods vehicle on 6th May. This new vehicle could, however, be put to use only on 15th June. Compute the total income of Mr. Sukhvinder for assessment here. They are given. The gross weight of 5 heavy goods vehicles is 22,000 kgs, and what they have said, the gross vehicle weight of heavy goods vehicles sold is 20,000 kgs. Okay. Have they given you what is the rate per kg here? They have not given. In this question, it says rupees 1,000 per ton of gross vehicle weight or unladen weight for heavy goods vehicle, rupees 7,500 for other than heavy goods vehicle. This is given in section 44AE. The provisions of section 44AE says this is how income has to be calculated. Agreed. This is what it said. In the question, they have not said 1,000 rupees, they have not said 7,500 rupees. Both they have not said. It is given in the section. Do you understand? Okay, here they only said for heavy goods vehicle, what is the weight of that vehicle they have given. 22,000 kgs or 20,000 kgs gross unladen weight. Okay, so based on that, you are multiplying into 1,005 into 12 into 22 into 1,000, 22. Okay, and then 22 tons. Okay, and one vehicle for 20 tons for 1 month. Okay, not for 2 months, April and May. Other than heavy goods vehicle, 7,500 rupees is being multiplied. That's all. Agreed. And it comes to 18 lakh 2,000. In this example, it so happens that presumptive income is not beneficial to the SAC. It is better that he shows income as per books. He maintains books and records, he shows the records, and it is better he shows 45,000 only. Why should he show 18 lakhs? Understand? Saravana Kumar says clearly understood. I hope others also have understood. We will be stopping with this. We have almost completed. Meenakshi says understood. Good, Meenakshi. So we will be stopping with this 44 AE. Next class, we'll be doing some problem solutions. Okay, we are done with actually PGBP provisions. Shravan says understood, sir. Sharon says clear. So this is what is PGBP about. We started with section 28. Okay, from 28 to 44 AE, we have come through some sections which we have not considered as important. We have not done some sections in the or intermediate. They have shifted it to final. Mostly provisions relating to non-residents presumptive income. They have shifted. Similarly, 44 DA expenditure from royalty, they have shifted it to final level. Okay, so that is where we stand. So whenever we meet the next class, we will work out problems in PGBP, and one next class will conclude PGBP. Agreed? Okay. So, right, Meenakshi, wish you all a happy weekend. Enjoy your Sunday. Haripriya, Saravana Kumar, Shravan. Over, isn't sir? Yes, it's over. We'll stop with this. 8:59. PGBP is over. Okay, PGBP is over. We'll be working out problems. Thank you. Thank you, everybody, for participating, for attending. Ashwini, Shravan. Thank you, Panchami Nair. Panchami never asked any questions today. Arunachalam. Thank you. Thank you, everybody. We'll meet next time. We'll work out problems. You also try to read, have your material with you, study material. Please read. Haripriya, thank you. Bye. We'll meet in next class. Right? Thank you. Clubbing set off, you won't take, sir. Sharon? Yes, Sharon will take clubbing set off. Chapter 6, I presume I'll be taking. We confirm. Okay. Thank you. Thank you, everybody. Good day.